Why is it?
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure how to start.
When I think about giving love and expressing love, I always think about that time when I was living in Wollongong, cooking for my whole hostel family. I would cook these really big meals for everyone living in the hostel at the time. I felt like I was putting all of my love and energy into the meal.
Cooking together is something really special. Something about the preparation of food is it's meditative. It's very I feel like you can just get lost in the process with people preparing together, and then kind of getting the fruits of your labor, and appreciating that. My friends didn't really know much about hot pot, or if they did, they had it in a different way. My parents are from Hong Kong, so there are different kind of provinces, and they do hot pot differently. We would go to the Asian grocery store, get all the ingredients that we wanted together, and then prepare all of the ingredients, cook together, I don't even think the food was that great.
It's
but
a ritual of
something
love.
about the preparation was just
Yeah,
it really is
and
and
the
your
more
joy
you
of
do
love.
it,
You put
the
so much
more
effort
love
into it,
you get
and then you
out.
finally get to get that back. Amazing. I feel very lucky that I have such easy access to food. Almost to the point where I don't have that same
We're so far removed
reverence.
from the process
It doesn't
of
become as valuable.
farming and harvesting.
Groceries. My dad started
and
a little
making the food
vegetable
itself.
I think and herb garden. Really connected to the process. Collectively began
It's
to
kind of the cycle of
appreciate more
the
the
love
process.
has been put into
we
the
help
entire process
something grow up,
of
and then
making whatever
we can
food you're
have the
having.
fruits
From
of it.
growing it
Loved the whole
to
time,
harvesting it,
and
to
you can feel it,
cooking
and
and
it's
preparing
probably why
It's
the
just
produce
being
is better or
loved.
something.
and
you
you
can
appreciate
feel
it
the
so
meaning
much
of
more.
food, I guess.
My grandparents grew up quite impoverished in Taiwan, but they were so poor they couldn't afford to eat rice. They would only be allowed to have rice once a year on Chinese New Year, and it would be the biggest delicacy, just a bowl of white rice. Me realize how much I take for granted. I love sweet potatoes. I grew up again in my grandparents' generation. They were so poor, they could only afford to eat sweet potatoes, and they would grow their own sweet potatoes. They would build these big mud huts, and they would throw all the sweet potatoes into these mud ovens. After a long day farming, they would come back and they would get all these sweet potatoes out of the mud oven and have so poor they couldn't think else. When my mum was growing up, sweet potatoes were sort of seen as a symbol of poverty. I'm living in a completely different socioeconomic, living on the other side of the world in a different country. Sweet potatoes don't have those meanings attached to do with poverty and farming. This familial story and connection behind sweet potato. I think about and I appreciate ancestors and my grandparents and my parents, all they've sacrificed so that I'm able to eat a sweet potato and not have to worry.
So many decisions along the way over time. My mum grew up in Hong Kong. She would talk about all of the street food and the street vendors. Something called wu fan su. It was this kind of roasted sweet potato. To find the street vendors that she remembered in her childhood, and we couldn't find it anymore. It's so temporary when people eat certain foods just because of the nostalgic value. Somehow
when you were talking about those street vendors, because I've been through the same thing. Because I used to live in Taiwan, and there were certain street vendors that used to sell. My favorite things were, and we'd drive around on the scooter, and we'd go not just any street vendor, but the specific ones, the same people that were selling my favorite, and they were still there, and that's all that mattered to me. The Kalabing people were still there. I will get it every night for dinner when I'm there, because we would drive around, because it reminds me of when I was 7 and living in Taiwan and driving on the motorbike. Little me sitting on the back of the motorbike, holding on to the Kalabing and holding on to my mum,
and it lives on. It lives on in the stories that we immigrant experience. Those things are sometimes you go back and it's not how you remember it. Integrated. You drink some soup, it's warm. Everything suddenly just seems better. For that single moment, you're not thinking about anything but the fact that you're just here, you're breathing, you're having hot soup. It's so many things. It's so many things. It's, wow, a love letter to food. Like,